Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm excited to introduce our topic, alcohol, humanity's oldest friend and most dangerous enemy. Today, we'll explore the complex history of alcohol, its cultural significance, and the serious challenges it poses. We'll look at how this ancient substance has been both celebrated and feared throughout human history. So, let's dive into this fascinating and important subject. Let's explore what I like to call the enduring paradox. If alcohol were invented today, it's almost certain it would be banned. Yet, because it has been part of human history for thousands of years, we tend to accept it, even celebrate it, and often normalize its risks. To really understand why alcohol continues to hold such a powerful place in our lives, we need to look at two key aspects: its biological effects on us and the social role it plays in human culture. Now, when we consider alcohol as a global phenomenon, it becomes even more striking. It is the most widely consumed psychoactive drug anywhere in the world. It's deeply woven into societies across the globe, from social gatherings to traditional ceremonies. This widespread acceptance and use highlight just how ingrained alcohol is in human life, making it a complex issue to address. Let's talk about alcohol and why it's more than just a drink. In fact, alcohol is actually a toxin. Interestingly, yeast initially produced ethanol during fermentation as a kind of biological weapon to eliminate competing microbes. When we drink alcohol, that ethanol quickly enters our bloodstream, within minutes, and it travels almost everywhere in our body, affecting nearly every organ. Now, one of the main organs impacted is the liver. The liver can only process a tiny amount of alcohol at a time, roughly the equivalent of one sip of beer every 5 minutes. If we drink faster than that, the excess alcohol floods our bloodstream, overwhelming our body's natural detox system. That's why drinking too much too quickly can cause serious damage. And then there's the effect on our brain. Alcohol interferes with neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals that help neurons communicate. This slows down those signals, leading to common signs like slurred speech, loss of balance, and difficulty thinking clearly. So, in essence, alcohol acts as a toxin that our body has to work hard to eliminate, and it disrupts normal brain function, which ties back to the broader theme of understanding the real impact of alcohol on our health. Let's talk about the immediate and lasting impact of alcohol. At first, when you have a drink, it can feel really good. It reduces tension, lowers inhibitions, and releases endorphins, which create a sense of connection and happiness. That's why social interactions often seem easier and more fun after a few drinks. But while that short-term euphoria can be appealing, it's important to understand what happens over the long term. Over time, alcohol can cause serious damage to almost every system in your body. It can shrink neurons, which are the cells responsible for your brain's function, and increase your risk of developing dementia. It also causes DNA mutations, which can lead to other health issues down the line. And there's one more thing. Alcohol is metabolized into a substance called acetaldehyde, which is actually more toxic than alcohol itself. This highlights how damaging alcohol can become with prolonged use, turning a temporary feeling of happiness into long-term health risks. Understanding this contrast between the short-term pleasures and the long-term consequences helps reinforce why moderation and awareness are so crucial. Let's talk about the systemic toll of alcohol and its long-term damage. Unlike many recreational substances, alcohol doesn't just affect the brain. It impacts almost every organ and system in our bodies. Starting with the brain, alcohol can cause neurons to shrink, which impairs memory and can even accelerate the development of dementia. This is especially concerning if someone starts drinking heavily before their brain matures in the mid-20s. Moving on to cancer, alcohol has been directly linked to at least 8 types, including breast cancer in women. What's alarming is that the risk begins even at just 1 glass of wine per day, making it a significant health concern. As for the liver, prolonged drinking can lead to fatty liver, inflammation, and ultimately cirrhosis. This serious condition causes the liver to fail and is responsible for about 600,000 deaths worldwide each year. The heart is also affected. Alcohol raises blood pressure, increases the risk of stroke, and weakens the heart muscle itself. Roughly 500,000 people die annually from cardiovascular diseases related to alcohol consumption. Finally, alcohol impacts our appearance and weight. It dehydrates the skin, speeds up aging, and adds empty calories that can lead to obesity and metabolic disorders. So, overall, alcohol's damage is far-reaching, affecting not just your immediate health but your long-term well-being across multiple systems. What makes alcohol particularly dangerous is that its impact extends far beyond just the individual who drinks it. It can cause serious harm, but it also leads to widespread devastation for others around them. Let's look at some of the key ways this happens. First, there are accidents. Every year, alcohol is linked to over 500,000 accidental deaths worldwide. That's a staggering number, and a large portion of that, about 300,000, comes from car crashes. What's really tragic is that more than half of those killed aren't the drinkers themselves, but innocent victims who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Next, we see the connection between alcohol and violence. About half of all violent crimes and sexual assaults involve alcohol in some way. Globally, this results in around 100,000 people being murdered each year by offenders who are intoxicated. So, when we talk about the dangers of alcohol, it's clear that its reach isn't limited to just the drinker. It can cause accidents, injuries, and even death among innocent people. This is a crucial part of understanding why alcohol's social destruction is such a serious issue. Let's take a moment to consider the impact on children first. Each year, approximately 600,000 babies are born with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, or FASD. This is a serious condition caused by mothers drinking alcohol during pregnancy. And what's really important to understand is that FASD is a lifelong condition, meaning once it occurs, it can't be reversed. It affects the child's development, behavior, and health throughout their entire life. Now, moving to the broader picture, public health. Alcohol consumption isn't just a personal choice, it's a public health issue. It creates ripple effects that reach into families, communities, and entire societies. When we think about alcohol-related harm, we need to recognize that it requires collective attention and action. Addressing this isn't just about individual responsibility, it's about understanding the wider impact and working together to reduce these preventable tragedies. So, in the context of this presentation, it's clear that the consequences of alcohol use extend far beyond the individual, highlighting the urgency for comprehensive public health strategies. Let's talk about the hidden face of alcoholism. When we think of alcoholics, many of us picture someone who's visibly struggling, maybe homeless, with a bottle in a paper bag, or a parent who's violent when drunk. But the truth is, half of all alcoholics don't fit that stereotype at all. Many are what we call functional alcoholics. These are successful professionals, dedicated parents, or students who seem to lead normal lives on the outside. They appear to handle everything, but inside, they're battling dependence. And what's even trickier is that their drinking is often socially accepted. It might be part of their social or work culture, so it becomes harder for others, and sometimes even for themselves, to recognize there's a problem. Globally, around 400 million people meet the criteria for alcoholism, and over half of those individuals are dependent on alcohol, meaning they can't function properly without it, either physically or psychologically. So, what this all highlights is that alcoholism isn't always what it seems on the surface. It can be hidden behind a successful facade, making awareness and understanding essential in addressing this widespread issue. So, why is it that despite all the known dangers of alcohol, we still find ourselves drawn to it? Well, the answer really lies in our psychology and social dynamics. Humans have this deep craving for connection, but at the same time, we often fear rejection. Alcohol plays a role here because it lowers our inhibitions and helps reduce social anxiety, making it easier to interact with others. It essentially acts as a social lubricant, making bonding feel more natural and accessible. For those who might be shy or nervous, alcohol can give them the courage to open up. It also helps strangers become friends more quickly and turns ordinary gatherings into celebrations. The key concept here is that alcohol functions as a kind of social technology, a chemical shortcut to trust, intimacy, and togetherness. We've traded some of our health for that priceless feeling of belonging, which is so fundamental to our human experience. It's a complex balance. Our desire for connection often pushes us toward alcohol, even when we know the risks. Let's reflect on how our relationship with alcohol is evolving. Younger generations, especially Gen Z, are drinking significantly less than their parents did. In fact, binge drinking among adolescents has decreased by half, and overall alcohol consumption is declining across much of the Western world. This trend has mixed consequences. On one hand, fewer young people are dying from accidents related to alcohol or suffering from alcohol-related illnesses. But on the other hand, many are experiencing higher levels of loneliness, having fewer friendships, and engaging in romantic relationships less often. This raises an important question. If alcohol once served as a kind of social bridge, what will replace it? The real challenge ahead is figuring out how to connect deeply with others without relying on chemical crutches. The future might require us to replace alcohol not with another drug, but with something more radical: genuine presence, meaningful human connection, and the courage to simply be ourselves, sober. This shift pushes us to rethink what authentic connection looks like and how we can foster it in a world where alcohol is no longer the default social lubricant.